Hello and welcome back to MKE Tech. I am your host, Nadia Johnson. I'm super excited to have our guests with us here today. We've got Johanna and Orlando. Welcome, guys.
Good
Thank you.
evening.
Thank
Good
you. Thank you for
evening.
having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm super excited to talk about all the great things that you guys have planned for this month. Of course, I always like to start off with a little corny, cute question. Um, we are now at the beginning of Q2 of 2024. What is the most significant thing that 2024 has taught you already in Q1?
Well, I can certainly start. I went to Africa in February and wow, I mean it was such an amazing trip, but one of the things that I really learned about is how much we take for granted. How much we take for granted here in the United States, even in Milwaukee. Like sometimes we think we're behind here, right? But wow, we take so much for granted. And so gratitude. It's simple, right? But it's taught me to be, more thankful, more grateful for the things that I do have. And yeah, so gratitude, one word.
Okay. And wait, repeat that question because I was listening to you.
Sure. Okay. So the question is, what's the most significant thing 2024 has taught you so far?
To be more humble and be more humble and just realize what's in front of you and appreciate what's in front of you that God bless you. With because we done lost a lot, the last few years or whenever, and I know I've lost a lot, recently, and so yeah, just humbling myself and being thankful for my blessings as much as possible.
So that topic interests me a lot. I remember when I met a gentleman here in Milwaukee. I'm blanking on his name right now. He used to run Scale Up.
Well, I remember that. I don't recall his name, though.
I'm blanking on it right now for some reason. I could picture him. At any rate, we're having lunch, and he tells me that I'm too humble. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, more people need to see you. More people need to see that you are what a software engineer looks like. You're what a computer scientist, a data scientist looks like. And you got to put yourself out there. Da, da, da. And so, I took that to heart, and I made sure that I was taking up more space. And in a way, I found that to be good advice. Today, though, honestly, I really do agree with you. I feel like there's something to being humble. And I can't really put my finger on it, but I think that there's a balance that you have to strike. And right now I'm in a season of being okay, being low key, and being okay, like amplifying other people. And I don't know. I feel like there's like scripture in the Bible about being humble.
Yeah,
like, do you guys have a scripture?
I have one. Well, and this one is, kind of related to what you said. So there's a scripture, and I'm a woman of faith, and so I live my life out loud in that way. But it says that your gifts or abilities will make room for you and bring you before basically the right people or great men. And so I think that there is not enough humility in the world today. I think we can look all around and find people that are, singing their own praises or there's not a void where we're not missing. I mean, look around, right?
Mm-hmm.
From social media to television, billboards, all over the place. Mm-hmm. It's everywhere. And so I'm not knocking anybody's hustle,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
But I think that, if humility in some ways, I believe, is directly connected to a person's heart. And I believe out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth is going to speak. And so if you are always feeling the need to broadcast what you're doing, your accomplishments, I think that that can oftentimes point to a level of insecurity. Mm-hmm. And I think that social media has really amplified that, right? Because there was a time where people heard about you, like your work
Your work,
proceed you.
right,
Right.
spoke
You
for
know,
itself.
and so that's the error that I'm accustomed to. It's like, why should I feel the need to tell you everything that I'm doing, every move that
Right.
I'm making?
Right.
And so, and there's definitely people who have made it to success without doing that. But it has its place. So I just think that, like you said, striking a balance,
Yeah.
but then knowing like, hey, okay, I didn't do it today, but it's okay. Like I'm
Yeah.
still successful.
Right.
I skipped a week.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's okay.
I appreciate that. Last year was probably one of the most humbling years of my life. I fell very ill at the top of last year, and then I navigated that throughout most of last year. And because of that, I felt like I didn't have the energy to be out in front all the time. Now, yes, the regular person, if they picked up on it, I don't know, right? But I was like probably at like 30% productivity. And what I learned from that is even if it didn't make it to social media, it could still happen,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
know?
that happened. Yeah.
And that reminded me and continues to be like top of mind for me. Like I don't necessarily have to post about every single thing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to make a press release about every single thing, right? So there's one thing to bring awareness to, opportunities that you're creating out of your business, but it's a whole other thing to kind of showboat. And so I definitely had to take a seat last year, and it definitely gave me some fresh perspective.
And
And
you were still blowing up.
Yeah.
Everywhere. We saw
Yeah.
you everywhere,
Even with you
literally.
being hit and-
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I just think it's a really interesting conversation because I am always curious. Where does being humble like play a role in the entrepreneurship journey, especially in this day and age where everybody is posting nonstop on social media? For me, this year has, I guess, reaffirmed what I've already known, the importance of not allowing people to project their limitations on me. So I recently successfully defended my dissertation, and so
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
Dr. Johnson. But months before, I had several people say like you need to wait, or you can't push it. You're likely not going to be able to graduate in time, so you'll have to wait until later on this year, or maybe even next year. Don't push it. You're doing too many things. And I just know what I'm capable of. Also, I know what my God is capable of. And so I went for it. And I'm so glad that I did, because it's a reminder that, yes, for that person, maybe all the things that I'm juggling would have been too much. But for me, I was able to get it done. And had I listened to those individuals who said that I couldn't, I would be in a different position than where I am today.
Right.
So just a reminder to kind of know yourself. Self-awareness is super important. And with that, you're able to navigate, all of the different information that comes in and out, and be able to sort of move around some of the naysayers. So that's what I've learned this year. And look, we're only on Q2 of 2024, all
Right,
these
right.
gems.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love for you guys to maybe share about your businesses, starting with Johanna, and then we'll talk about what you guys have planned together.
Yeah. So I am the owner of a business called MKE Tech. And what we do is we combine the life aspect, and we're lovers of technology from the end user standpoint. So I have a background in technology and information systems. And so life pulled me away from that. It wasn't serving me well, wasn't authentic to who I was as an individual. And so I stepped away from that to really kind of dive into who Johanna was and what she wanted to do. And so, fast forward 20 years later, I'm back as my authentic self, and that's bringing my coaching into the work that I do. And so what we do is we provide digital literacy training for individuals. We advocate for girls of color in technology. And we are also moving into providing training specifically AI training for people in the faith-based space. And so that's new for us. We're extremely excited about that. And so there's a bit of a gap, and I'm there to bridge the gap.
Awesome. That's actually really unique, combining religion and artificial intelligence. So I can't wait to see what you do with that.
Yeah.
Orlando?
I'm excited.
I'm the chief visionary officer for the Visionary League. Second time around with you on this podcast. So some people probably already heard me, but we've been running this organization. It's a diversity and inclusion organization. We've been running for 7 years now, going on 8 come the end of this year. And running our major event, Women Wanted Tech for 5 years now. So we do multiple things. Our thing is about workforce development as much as possible, get more minorities into tech and creative industry, positions. We did the job thing, with Women Wanted Tech last year. We kind of wanted to focus more on mental health awareness and self-care this year. And then we'll be bringing that element back next year. But we're all about, giving people opportunities and giving the resources in front of people as much as possible. And with COVID, we had to tweak our business model, a little bit because of diversity and inclusion, what they're doing with it right now. I think we're all kind of dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
They're eliminating it right now, and it's kind of pitiful.
Well, let's talk about it. Oh, man, pitiful. That's one perspective. I have other words.
A lot of words.
But let's talk about it. It's interesting because I was just on a phone call with a couple of tech community leaders from here in Milwaukee and Chicago, and they were talking about since the affirmative action ruling, now we have to change language and or missions of companies to accommodate now this new policy. And for instance, if you had like a fund that was dedicated to Black founders, you have to change your language and or your operations altogether. You could still, have a mission of increasing representation, but when it comes to actually like dishing out funding, like you cannot just dedicate it to one group of people. And so that really attacks the work, right? Because when we think about equity, we're thinking about creating systems that support individuals or populations, communities that have systemically been held back, right?
Right.
And so making up for the gaps that have been systemically put in place. And so it's been a huge challenge, and I've just been trying to wrap my head around it. I've kind of shrugged it off and rolled my eyes, but the reality is like leading a tech hub right now, we've got an accelerator application open where we're awarding up to $25,000, and so now we got to kind of reevaluate how we move a little bit, right? So that we're not necessarily breaking any rules. But how does it make you guys feel? And obviously given like the mission and visions of your respective companies, have you shifted at all in terms of, the way you carry out your business, or has this impacted any one of your programs at all just yet?
So I sit on the board for an organization where I head up DE&I. And so, when I think about that, my desire always is thinking, more about the equity. Mm-hmm. And when we remove those resources, it's no longer a level playing ground. Mm-hmm. And so, in my opinion, and so I believe that it sets us back, and it's, I think it's making a lot of people reevaluate their connections to, entities that are deciding to change their language. Because I'm looking like, okay, what you gonna change it to then? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
what is your stance now? Huh?
Exactly. Like, let's see what you gonna do. Mm-hmm. Because that may determine how far I'm willing to move with you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I may have to disconnect myself now. If you're doing something different, then I'm gonna have to do something different. Yeah. And so I think that, everybody's watching to see how this is going to play out. And I think that for the people that are redeveloping their mission and vision statements, I think that it's important for you to have the right people around the table as you're redeveloping, because it's going to impact a lot of people. And some of those people that it's impacting, they should help you. They should be involved in the process and helping you draft what those statements look like.
I would add to that is that it got us feeling uncomfortable because, we got comfortable where I can't say we got comfortable, but we was almost at that edge of change and seeing difference and seeing us being more involved in stuff, being involved in more movies and commercials and all type of things when D&I came through, right? And so now, we thought we was at that point where now we feel included, as a whole, as a culture too, as a culture being included with everything. And to take that and try to step back and pull that away from us, and put different regulations and stuff on funding and all type of things, because they seen that how much we was starting to be involved in everything with funding and grants and stuff like that. To take that away from us, they know exactly what they're doing, and so the changing of the business model, we definitely changing ours. We might change some things up, as in every time I say diversity inclusion organization, we been talking about it the last few weeks about changing that up and twisting that a little bit and going not a different route, but still staying on the same path, but not saying that. Because you never know who's going to read your verbiage and be like, oh, they're focused on that, and we might not want to.
We're no longer investing in that kind of organization. So it is. And it's really painful to hear, like, the people who are actually doing the work, and that should be doing the work. Community-led organizations are now are feeling the need to make this shift. So I have a perspective here. I know I sometimes jokingly used to call DEI dead end initiative. Why? Because in different corporations, when they had
wait, say that again.
Dead end initiative.
Okay.
And the reason why I make that joke, and I think I got that from my chief of staff, Leah, is because I feel like some of these DEI departments are sometimes put in place for show. It's almost performative, almost as if they knew, like, okay, well, in the next 2 years, we're going to divest anyway. So let's just, let's play, the game. Everybody else is doing it. So let us, hashtag Black Lives Matter too. And then knowing, like, in 2-3 years, we're going to be exhausted of this and it's going to fall flat. And so I don't think that it ever had the legs. Some companies did do it right, but not enough.
Right.
So I think, if anything, all of this is showing me is that we should not be in a position where someone can pull the rug from us. Right. And that's where the equity piece comes from, is ownership, right? So Milky Way Tech Hub, I always like to joke, it's code for make your own table. Like, I don't want to be in a position where somebody all of a sudden says, get up, we no longer want you here at this table, or we're no longer prioritizing your voice at this table. I want it to be our table. Right. And so I think that more than ever, it's time for us to invest in ourselves, invest in ownership of businesses, so that we don't have to depend on anybody else to care.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, you don't care anymore. Oh, we're not a priority anymore. Oh, you're divesting. That's your business, but it's not impacting me. Right. And so I think that's where we need to shift. If anything, our shift should be, how are we making sure that we have our own pot that we're pulling from, and we're not depending from others. That's how I started to see it. And I think that, we just have, as a community, we have to lean more into building our own and creating our own villages and our own Black Wall Street. And because gone are the days of me, like, wanting to or being dependent on larger companies' DEI. Now, I know that it is important. I will say that it is important for them to recognize, but not be performative. Recognize, truly understand why diversity, equity, inclusion is critical to their bottom line. So I, of course, will want to continue to advocate for DE&I, and at the same time, I'm always going to be on the rooftop screaming equity equals ownership. Like, we need to be owning our own stuff anyways.
You know, I totally agree with you. And I'll just add to this, you know, if I could get on my proverbial soapbox
Okay.
for 1 second, it would just be that, you know, I'm just mad that we still have to have this conversation
In 2024.
in 2020. Can I just say that?
Mhm.
Can I be mad about that?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel some type of way that we still, like, literally
Mm-hmm.
2024, in 6 years we'll be at 2030.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still literally having the same conversations.
Mm-hmm.
It's mind-boggling. And so the fact that, you know, people think it's okay to take it away, right? And then it not impact us. Like, that's okay. So, yeah, I just feel like, and so we have to get to the place where, like Nadia said, that we are, you know, to the best of our ability, we have our own, so that you can't tell us to get up from the table, because it's our table.
Our table.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Because where I got frustrated is that they took so many jobs away from us when we start being included, and all of us, a lot of minorities, start being hired, and then eliminate all those jobs in tech, specifically tech, definitely eliminate all those jobs in one, you know, departments and stuff like that. They consistently taking away departments and jobs and stuff like that.
Last hired, what was it? Last hired, first fired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing the open to work all the time on LinkedIn frustrated me, you know, consistently seeing that. And it pissed me off. You know, you done hire all these people for, like you said, about 2 years, and then eliminate all that and take that away. That's what really pissed me off, you know, and it's still happening right now.
Yeah. I think another thing, I'm gonna put this out there, then we gotta switch topics. But another thing is, 2 years ago, man, I'm saying 2 years ago, but really it was like, 2020 with the whole peak of George Floyd era, right? Everybody's, hashtag Black Lives Matter and such. I saw a trend of taking some of the very few Black executives and creating VP of E&I or chief diversity officer roles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're taking them from these critical roles, like PTOs, CIOs, and say, okay, we're creating this new, and we want you to head it, right? And so I saw a trend of like different Black executives starting to fill diversity officer roles. And for a while, there's some folks that were clapping, but now here we are where it's completely divested. So where are those Black executives now, right?
Gone.
They're gone because those roles are gone, right? So now they basically created this system where I feel like they were pushing them out the door without them even knowing it.
Yeah.
In a way, I saw a trend like that, and I'm not really happy about it, because those were our top executive leaders, which we want to continue to increase representation in that space, in the C-suite. And many of them were out the door in 2-3 years.
Tiara Clayton, that's going to be on the panel. She works for Salesforce. We had a conversation some months ago, and she was really saddened to know that she had to eliminate so many people that she just hired as minorities not in Salesforce, because of the changes and transitions and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, she's gonna probably, if it get brought up in the conversation on the panel, she'll probably bring that up. But she was really saddened by, and it affected her too. She told me it affected her. How she had to eliminate so many people's jobs. Because she's HR.
It's tough. So speaking of, you mentioned a panel. You've got an event coming up, a big one. Tell us about it.
Oh yeah, Women Want to Tech 5.0. The focus is on mental health, women in tech, mental health awareness, and self-care. Also, we didn't add that in the title, but self-care is definitely part of that. Everybody needs self-care, and definitely for the women. I done had multiple conversations with the different women on the panel. And they all experienced the different work-life balance challenges and stuff. And they said that we hit it on the head, with this event in general, because they go through a lot. We all know y'all go through a lot as a whole, as women, because y'all Y'all got one thing down packed that us men don't: multitasking, and y'all kill it. And yeah, I see you got your hands up. Y'all kill it. And that's one thing y'all do. Y'all deal with kids. Y'all deal with the work. Y'all dealing with finances. You're dealing with husbands, boyfriends, or whatever.
Families.
Family, whatever. And it's challenging to try to stay focused and still go to your 9 to 5. And still knock it out and still be that leader or still be that person at the table and still try to have that voice heard. That's tough for women. And so that's why we did this event, because women mean a lot. It means a lot to have women on the team. That's why I have women on my team, because I need some no people. I don't need yes people. And a lot of the women on my team is no people. They be like, no, that ain't gonna work. We need to move this. No, shut up. You're not gonna do that.
They're leaders.
Right. They're leaders. And I'll be like, God dang, like, man, like, you really just denied me? Like, and I have to step back like, dang, I just got denied. So I thought I owned this. But they put me in my place, and not like that, but in a good way, because they look out and they are very strategic. And that's what people don't understand, how strategic and how beneficial women are at the table. But at the same time, they don't know how much they go through with trying to be at the table.
And so the purpose of this event is to create awareness of mental health.
Yep.
And the importance of taking care of yourself.
Right.
And making sure that you take care of yourself, not just physically, but mentally as well. Going into the entrepreneurship journey myself, when I heard 6, 7 years ago, like when I would hear like mental health, I didn't necessarily think of just like the everyday person, but the reality is that everybody has mental health, like everybody has physical health. Just like everybody gets sick maybe once a year or more, right? Like people like mentally have bad days, and like we have to normalize that so that we can bring awareness and know how to deal with it, know how to cope, and have like healthy strategies. I mentioned last year was one of the toughest years of my life. I was grateful for people like Johanna who could sit me down and be like, what's going on? And provide some sort of coaching for me. So Johanna, share with us your thoughts on maintaining mental wellness and some advice for women who are in the entrepreneurship space, or just, in general, how to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I want to give a shout out to Arlando for even having the event and being the only male, God bless you. Dealing with all the women. But we appreciate it. And a lot of times, and I'll actually start with this. Sometimes men ask, well, what can we do? And the thing is that you can do what Arlando was doing. You know what I mean? Provide platforms for women, support them, encourage them. And so there's a number of ways where you can help us maintain our mental strength and agility. And I think that in addition to that, like, you can observe, see your female colleagues, and if you know about some things that they may be going through, or tell them to take the afternoon off, like. Yeah. Give them permission, because a lot of times women, because we do so many things, sometimes we get the guilt complex, like, oh, I got to stay longer. You know what I mean? And then your home is suffering, because then when you get home, then you feel like the weight now has shifted from your work world to your home life. Like, I miss my kids, this or that. And, they ate dinner without me. I mean, the list goes on. And so for as much as value as we bring to an organization, think about that, but also think that we need just as much time to release. We need just as much time to relax. We need just as much time to rejuvenate, to recuperate, to recover. And so I think it's so necessary most of the time. And even for things as such as event planning, like we'll have a really big event, a really, maybe things happening that are celebrating a cause or something that we're doing. And then the next day we'll be at work. Like, what is that? Give yourself some time to celebrate your achievement. Woosah, if you will, and then take some time and then come back and get back into the game. So I think that it's so important for women to build in mental health days to their life, right? And not get to the place where you're ready to crash and burn and somebody has to tell you, okay, I think you need a day off.
Yeah.
I think you need a day off because
That was me.
you out here looking bad. Like I literally don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, should I be concerned? You know, my heart in some instances with like, you know, I would send Nadia a text like, okay, are
You good?
you okay?
Say Arlando would too.
Yeah.
You would quite literally walk up to me and be like, "You don't look good," or
You
like, "You look tired." You would say that,
Well,
right? And I don't. I mean, I appreciate that too. But it always like makes me reflect, like, oh, maybe I am tired. Like if people can like visually see it, I must be really tired.
And I think about as far as technology is concerned, so I believe in people over process, right? And so, but so many times in our tech world, like it's all about the product, like getting it done, accomplishing the mission, doing this.
Deadlines.
But
Yeah.
if it's at at what cost? Absolutely. If you're sacrificing your mental health, your relationships, your physical health, I mean, are you really successful? Are you really? And so I believe, you know, there's a proverb that I live by that, you know, we should be well spirit, soul, and body. If my body is not well, my spirit's not well. If my spirit's not well, my soul is not well. And so, you know, we're supposed to be prosperous in all those areas. And so that, I mean, and that's a work. That's a tough work to be able to, you know, and I don't really, some people say that it's impossible to have balance, but more possible to have harmony, because there will be times where, you know, the scale is tipped in one direction more than the other, depending on what's happening in your life. And so I think making room for that, and that's okay, but realizing, and one of the ways you do that is your boundaries, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to attend everything.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
I mentioned that I was at like 30% health wise last year. And one of the biggest things I learned from that is, all the things that I used to really worry about are really, really, really insignificant right now. And when your health fails you, everything else, the things that I focused on and was like, this is the biggest issue in the world, quite literally meant nothing. Nothing. Oh, Karen is acting up again and saying XYZ. Let Karen do what Karen wants to do. Like, this meetup it has a low attendance registrations. I said, then we don't even need to have the meetup this month. And it didn't even mean, like, you know, if you had told me that, you know, a year before my illness, I would have been like, oh no, how are we going to get 30 registrants in 2 days? No, it switched very quickly to maybe we don't need to have it. Maybe we don't need to have the meetup. And then what I learned is that everything's going to work itself out, whether I burn myself out or not.
Right.
So I have a decision. Am I going to burn myself out, or am I just going to trust that everything's going to be okay?
Yeah.
And so really taught me to just like sit back and trust that what is for me is still going to happen.
Yeah.
And everything's going to work out. And to know that without me having to do the absolute most. Yeah. And so now that, you know, I'm back to 100%, all glory to God, I'm at this point now where like perspective shifts. Like people come to me with all kinds of stuff and I'm like, that's okay. or we don't have to worry about that. Like completely different person than I was, you know, a year and a half ago, because I have now great perspective in the importance of rest. Productivity to me completely shifted. It is productive for me to rest.
Yes.
It is. It's productive for me to rest. And that? So I'm okay with like taking more than a day off, like a week off, and know that when I come back, the world is not going to be over.
Yes.
The world's not going to be over. And so, yes, I definitely cannot speak enough to the importance of prioritizing rest, and self-respect, because the reality is like, if I'm taking care of everybody else's needs, but I'm not taking care of myself, then how much am I respecting myself?
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of where I am right now. And I'm truly grateful that you're having this conversation. I could have used this 4 years ago, 5 years ago, but I have truly arrived to the self-care party for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the glass for the event, because, you know, we do a different theme every year and put on the glass. And this year is rest, relax, and recover. And so, and because it means a lot. And so that's why we put that on the glass. And so, and just, it goes off of what you just said. It goes off of what I've been preaching myself about getting rest. And when I see her, I'd be like, get your rest, or I'll text her, and say.
And I say the same thing to you.
Yeah, you say the same thing to me. So we all on the same
We all on the
page.
same, and the thing is, like, I still am a work hard, right? Like, so, and I still need that reminding every now and then. Like, the stress I just put on my body to get past this PhD was a lot, right? And the thing is, though, I'm aware of that.
And so let me ask you, what did you do to celebrate?
Okay, so I plan on going to the Dominican Republic to celebrate. I haven't really done anything just yet, just because there's a lot going on. But I know the importance of taking time to reflect and to be present and to not ask myself what's next so quickly. That was another thing that I did all the time. Was like, okay, that's done. What's the next thing that I need to be working on? And the reality is that the gift is right now, and so I want to sit and relish and like be as present as possible in what I have right now before like racing off to the next thing. Because I think in that way, I'm able to practice gratitude, which you kind of talked about earlier. And then also, that to me is what success looks like, is being okay and happy with where you are. So that's the thing, is I know it is important to celebrate. And I hope maybe I can like schedule like a dinner or something and invite you guys.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I think that even before you get to the Dominican, like you could do something like, what can you do now to celebrate in your own way? It doesn't have to be like 10 people. It could just be like,
something that I do.
Just whatever. And so just because it was a major accomplishment. And so that's what I am learning to do. That's what I encourage other people to do. I do that with my kids, even, so that they can pick up the habit of, we're going to celebrate, and that could be, I'm getting you can have an extra piece of chocolate because I know you like it, right? Because you did good. You had a good day today.
Yeah.
So, and I think that, so many times we can, as women, especially in the technology space, we have to work harder. We feel like we have to prove ourselves, we got to stand on our soapbox, and going back to, the need to show your accomplishments to the world via all the platforms that are available, the news, the business journal, the this, the that, all the things, right? It is mentally exhausting.
It is.
To keep up with all of those things. And so give yourself some grace. That has been my greatest lesson that I have for myself. And I'm passing it on to, people that I coach, and as well as for friends and family. Grace.
Yeah. Oh, grace for yourself. That is super important. There's a book that I've been talking about for the last 2 years now, called Rest is Resistance. The author, I believe her name is pronounced Trisha Hershey. It's an incredible book, but it talks about how especially Black people need to embrace rest more, and how it goes against the grain of capitalism, resting and seeing rest as productivity, but how it is our divine right. It's not something that you have to earn. And that's the thing that I had to unlearn for myself. I mean, going to a predominantly white institution, just coming up and being raised by boomers who are like, work hard and, and things pay off. I'm learning, and this is controversial, but I'm just going to say it. I'm learning to go in the least path of resistance, like ease, right? And I'm learning that even if I'm not like stressed or burning myself out, things still work out if you just allow it to like flow.
Let it happen.
And let it happen, right?
And isn't that what faith is, though?
I think
That's
that is what faith is.
Isn't that what faith
I think that's what I've been
God
practicing.
first.
Putting God first, prioritizing my relationship with God, having faith that things will work out without me feeling like I need to be in complete control. So really the word is surrendering. Learning how to surrender, and then watching things just flow much easier, because what you resist persists. And whenever I'm like trying to fight in one direction, or trying to fight this company or whatever, and this competition, things just seem like a wrestle. When I finally just like surrender, all of a sudden things just like flow. And so I had to really learn how to how to see rest as like my divine right instead of something that I have to earn. Like this trip that I'm planning on taking, I want to see it as something like this. Resting is just something that I'm planning, but it's not that I earned this. I owe it to myself to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, speaking from a privileged perspective, not everybody can fly to like a tropical space or whatever. But my point is that I don't think that we have to work ourselves to death and then say, okay, now I feel like because I'm exhausted, I've earned this vacation. No, I feel like we just have the right to rest.
Right.
Like that should be a part of our human experience. And I think that far too often we think we have to work in order to receive rest. So I highly encourage people to read that book. It does speak from the Christian perspective. The author's father was like a pastor, a Kojic pastor, actually. I don't know if you're Church of God in Christ, and he ended up working himself to death. And that's kind of what encouraged her to write this book about how Black people need to embrace rest.
It's good.
See how important this conversation. It's supposed to have been a 30-minute.
Yeah.
But it was meant to have this conversation because the importance of resting and mental health and self-care.
Yeah.
This shows the drive of that conversation is needed. And that's why it shows the drive and the need for this event coming up with all the panelists and involved in the industry, and Johanna on board as being the life coach of the panel. And this is why we have this. It's for y'all. And every time I do this, I think of y'all all the time.
I think it's a much needed conversation, and I'm grateful to be a part of the panel. So I'm looking forward to a great event. Thank you for reaching out.
And say the date again.
It is April 25th. Come next Thursday.
Where?
At Pilot Project right down the road, actually.
Okay.
Over around the corner. So
okay. All right. April 25th at Pilot Project. Thank you both again for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And where can people go to find like the details about the event? It's a website, Eventbrite.
Oh, so they can go on Eventbrite, look up Women Wanting Tech 5.0. They can also go to our website, www.visionarylead.org. Thank you. Thank you for the
yes, for the plug. Thank you, Johanna. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.